Good morning. Good morning. How are y'all doing? Good. Good. Hope you're about to do better. Some of you might not. I don't know. I might step on some toes. We'll see. One thing I wanted to draw your attention to, as I say, God is not afraid of questions, and neither am I. The Bible is a book of not just a religious book, but there's a book of answers, and there are things that God wants us to wrestle with, wants us to learn, wants us to know. As the greatest commandment says, love the Lord your God with all of your heart, your mind, your soul, and your strength. Your heart, your mind. Love the Lord with your mind. And so God is not afraid of hard questions. God wants us to actually, in our moments of doubt, press into Him. And so I want for there to be, not that I have all the answers, but maybe we can find them together, but I want there to be as much opportunity as there can, that if you have a question, if you have a concern, if you have a doubt, if there's something you're wrestling with, or just something you don't understand, that you can come to me. My phone number and my email address are in the bulletin. You can always catch me before or after service or any time in between. But I also have, there's these little cards. On the table there in the entryway, there's a little basket. You'll see these cards, and they say, "Hey, Pastor." Sort of little "Hey, Pastor" cards. You got a question that you want to say, "Hey, Pastor, I got a question," or a comment. "Did I have something in my teeth that I just wasn't aware of, so I need to check that better next week?" Let me know. If you have a question, a comment, something about that you want to, maybe you don't have time to stop and ask me. Maybe you want it to be anonymous. You just want a concern to be voiced. But if you don't want to be anonymous, there's a little spot down here for name and contact so that you can let me know who's asking, right? Because I want to be able to address issues. I know personally, when I've been on that side of the pulpit, that there are times that after service, I'm just sitting there thinking, well, okay, but what about? Right? Whenever the preacher makes this point and it brings up 3 other questions that didn't get answered. And those things happen. And there's times that, maybe we just can't address every little thing, or maybe I just didn't think about that particular angle that you're going through in your life and you want a question. I want that opportunity to be there for you to press in and ask the questions. That's one way it is. And so that is in the back. Like I said, my number and email address are in the bulletin. Facebook, Twitter, whatever. Just find me and we can chat. So today, however, we will be continuing our journey through the book of James. We're going to be in chapter 1 still, verses 9 through 11. The bulk of chapter 1 is taken up with the issue of trials. As we, as followers of Christ, living in a fallen world, encounter hardships and challenges and the way we deal with them. And I'm taking to stop a bite at a time, because there's several different types of trials and issues that he's laying out. And so that's why we've just been going 2 or 3 verses at a time to address that specific trial. And today, we're addressing the trials that surround or may involve money or wealth or material stuff or the lack of. And so we will take a look at that today. Remember, trials are not to be feared. They're not to be avoided. God's highest virtue is not that we be comfortable and life be pleasant. God's highest virtue is that we be made holy and be brought back into relationship with Him. And so trials are not something that we go, oh, well, this is obviously bad, because God has a use for trials to grow us, to mature us, to teach us things, that we trust Him in those times of trials. And as we go through those trials with God, we grow closer to Him. So, James chapter 1, starting in verse 9, says, "Let the lowly brother glory in his exaltation, but the rich in his humiliation. Because as a flower of the field he will pass away. For no sooner has the sun risen with a burning heat than it withers the grass. Its flower falls, and its beautiful appearance perishes. So the rich man will also fade away in all of his pursuits."
Both the poor and the rich are told to glory in their situation. You ever thought about that? Glory in being poor? Seems kind of weird. I don't want to be poor. I want to glory in being rich. Can I have that gig? Right, let me glory in that one. See, the poor brother, though, is wealthy in spiritual things. He knows that his treasure is not found on earth. And so he glories that even in my lowly situation, I have been exalted. Because though I may be poor here, I am a child of the King there. And the wealthy Christians can rejoice because they've come to realize that the wealth that they have is not what's important. And so it says, let the rich brother glory in his humiliation. So whenever maybe you have well-to-do and then you lose it, you can still glory in that moment because, like the poor brother, your treasure is not found on earth, but it's treasure in heaven. Because you know, as verses 3 and 4 said, that the testing of your faith produces patience. But patience will have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. So you lose money. It's a trial. It's a hardship you're going through. Finances go from being good to being hard. It's a trial. And what you think you're losing in the money, you're actually gaining in your heavenly treasure as you draw closer to God through that trial. But we also have to remember, as with all trials, not to be double-minded. Remember, we talked about wisdom. Are you needing wisdom? Ask of God, but don't ask. Don't doubt while you ask. And the idea is you're saying, God, tell me what to do, but you're really getting your ideas from somewhere else. You're double-minded. Your priorities are split. You're saying you want to follow God, but you're actually putting your faith in something else. We can do that with money. Where we say, Lord, yes, you are my focus, my purpose. You are my provider, but I need to make sure I got money. And your purpose becomes about the material stuff instead of about God, and you're being double-minded in that pursuit. The reality of life is, though, we live in a world where money is necessary, right? That's just the way our economy works. It's the way our society works. You want to eat, got to have some money. Right? Maybe some of you have a farm. Maybe there's a little subsistence going on where you have a nice-sized garden where you feed yourself from, but it doesn't sustain you totally. Right? You still got to go to the grocery store for things. You want some utility, some electricity, some AC, some heat in the wintertime. Whenever we have wintertime. Occasionally, every now and then. Right? You want to be able to put some gas in your car. It's going to take some money. It's just the way our society works. It's the reality of the world that we live in, that the things we need and the ones we want, that money is the way these things are acquired. But we also know that the reality we live in is a broken and fallen world where human hearts do not pursue what they should. We do not focus where we should. And we take what is not a bad thing and we turn it and corrupt it into a vile thing. Right? There's nothing wrong with wanting to have some money to have some things that you need, but then we take that in our selfishness and brokenness, we turn it into greed. We know that things do not work as they should in this world, and so we get trials. But if we want to be complete and lacking in nothing, we trust in God during those trials. We do not trust in our material gain. And I think that's what James is getting at here, that whether you are the lowly, the poor brother, or the rich brother, put your trust in God, not in your material stuff. Keep in mind what verse 11 says. For no sooner has the sun risen with a burning heat than it withers the grass. Its flower falls and its beautiful appearance perishes. And so the rich man will also fade away in his pursuits. Doesn't last. I got out of order, by the way. If you're freaking out up there about the slides, sorry. I'll get back where I'm supposed to be. So what's your trial regarding money, right? So we have money, it's just a reality of life. We have trials that will come our way. So if trials are going to come our way, and money's the way things tend to happen in our society, we're going to end up with trials involving money. So here's 3 things that I think are common, by no means exhaustive, 3 things that are common that we encounter. Our financial status oftentimes can be viewed as the meter of our personal worth and value. Whether it's how we're viewed by society or how we view ourselves, whether or not you have material wealth can be used or wrongly gets used as a meter, a standard, a measure of your worth and value. Maybe you lack wealth, which, by the way, wealth is relative. How do you determine what having a lot of money is? Because there's been times in my life where I felt like I was just making stupid amounts of money. And I'm like, wow, I'm rolling in it. But then if you really put it next to national averages, I was doing okay. Kind of low on the low end there. But for my life, man, that was awesome money. Whereas I know people who would look at that and go, how do you live off of that? And I'm thinking, how do I not? Look at all this money, right? It is kind of relative. I told you last week in reference to something else that a study I read a few years ago, so the numbers are old, but they're probably somewhere close by, that those who make $26,000 a year are in the top 1% wealthiest people on the face of the planet. So in America, if you want to do that math, $26,000 a year works out to about $12 and some change an hour. Okay, now in some places that's pretty good money. Okay, I can live off that, right? Okay, some places they're saying no, I need more than that. But you realize there's people, 99% of the world lives off of less than what we would look at and go, okay, right? So those of us who maybe live in a situation that our culture says you're poor, there's a rest of the world that will look at us and go, man, if I could only have a half of what you have. Please, yes, let me go be poor in America. There's people who risk life and limb to come be poor in America because our poor live better than their standard way of life. So wealth can be relative, but maybe in your situation, you're sitting there and you're looking, you're going, I feel the lack. I don't have what I need. I'm not meeting my bills. It's hard to get food. But then what we apply is this idea that since I lack money, I just must not be worth it. The implication is that we are worth less, oftentimes seen as less to others, but then also we feel like, well, I'm having a hard time, so I must not be worth blessing. Hey God, where's my blessing? Why am I struggling so hard? I must not be worth your time. I must not be worth answering my prayers, for your time to answer my prayers. And so we will let ourselves get in this idea that our value is of less. And one of the things that kind of comes into life in this, and I don't want to get on this because I don't like to rag on others too much, but there's this idea, what's called the prosperity gospel. Have you all heard that word? Prosperity gospel. There are those out there who preach this idea, and it's the same idea, by the way, it's not new. It's the same idea that the disciples were kind of wrongly thinking back in Jesus' day, where it's this idea that, well, if you have enough faith, if you just believe enough, see, if you're good enough, if you're righteous enough, then God will bless you, and that blessing plays itself out in material gain. And that if you would just believe enough and have enough faith and give me some money, you will be taken care of. The reason you don't have anything, they say, is because you don't have enough faith. You're not trusting God enough. Well, that's foolishness. What has James said? When trials come, not if, when. Hard times will come. Jesus said, they have hated me, they will hate you. The Bible plainly says, hard times will come. The issue isn't whether or not you have the material gain. The issue is, are you trusting God in whatever situation you are in. If you are in that trial of lacking wealth and you wrestle with feeling like you're not worthy, put that junk away and remember that you need to rejoice in your exaltation, because you may feel like a beggar on earth, but in heaven you're a prince. Maybe your trial is that you have wealth, right? Money in our society being viewed as a meter of your standard of wealth. It's easy to have this prideful comparison. I have more. Must mean I'm worth more. That this idea that somehow you're better than others because you've been successful. Maybe you've just been lucky. Maybe God decided to let you have that blessing for a reason you don't really know, but then you get all puffed up because look at me, obviously I'm more valuable. Obviously I'm worth more. And a lot of times we wouldn't put it into those phrases, right? Obviously we wouldn't, no, some people would, but we generally wouldn't walk around thinking, yeah, look at me. Got a big fat wallet. I must be worth more than you. And not just in money. I'm a better person than you. But we don't say that. But a lot of times that's what goes on in our hearts. In a broken world. But here's the thing. As James reminds us, it will not last. Just like the sun comes up and dries out the grass and it withers and fades away, hey, you know what? That wealth is going away too. Your value is not found in that. Your value is not found in your material possessions because it does not matter. At the table of the Lord, whether you're a beggar or a businessman, a pauper or a prince, we all sit as equals, sons and daughters of the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Your material wealth does not determine your value as a person. Another trial we might encounter is that money or material things are a measure of our security. Right? There are people who marry because I'm going to marry someone who is going to be stable and be able to provide. As followers of Christ, our provision is not found in our money. Our provision is found in our God. Amen? You never know. A loss of a job, downturn in the economy, all of a sudden your 401k is gone. All sorts of things that can kind of get frightening, give you a setback, take a pay cut, and all of a sudden it's, what do I do? Right? You have one of those credit cards that tell you they're going to have a low interest rate. You miss one payment, all of a sudden it's like 30%, and you're paying interest and you can't keep up. Oh no, what do I do? All of a sudden your blood pressure goes up, and a lot of us, most people in the United States live in such a way that one paycheck away from disaster. Most people live in such a situation, paycheck to paycheck, that if one thing happens, they miss one paycheck, their whole financial situation goes in a tailspin. And so we feel if we just have the money, then we'll have the security, but we do not realize that God is where our security comes from. There's also times that choices can be attractive. Where, hey, if I take that job, I can make more money. Where that job might make you kind of bend your ethics a little, maybe kind of push the bounds of what's moral a little bit. Back when I was in college, I had a friend who could have gotten me a job not waiting tables, bartending. We just had to go through the training, learn how to mix the drinks, get a license. And it wasn't a sleazy place. It wasn't. It wasn't one of those kind of places where people is just all rowdy and getting, drunk all over the place. And it was kind of a classy joint, but still is like, even if 9 out of 10 people come in there, just have a drink and go about their day and no problem, that 1 out of 10 that comes in and their means for what they have come for is sinfulness, I don't know that I can help them with that. Now that was my conviction, that I looked at that and said, I don't think I could do that. But the money a bartender can make, that was very, very tempting to take my conviction and just tell my conscience, hey, stuff it. I am going to go make some money. Right? It's tempting because it's money where we look at and say, hey, if I can make more, I'll be more secure. Another thing is that money can be used as a tool for power or advantage over others. Anyone ever worked for a boss who's just a jerk? Right? Maybe if you're working for them now, you don't want to raise your hand. I get it. But it's this idea where they come in and it's just like, you have to do this. And what are you going to do about it? They sign the check. And they take that power that they sign your check so they can tell you what to do. And they can treat you like dirt. And you look and you go, I got to pay my bills, you know. I was working for a company where the owner, most of the times, was just fine. Most of the time, stayed in their office, did their thing. But every now and then, they would come out and just fly into a tirade, an obscenity-laden tirade about how worthless we all are and how we're costing them money and how we need to learn to do our jobs right. And then they're gone. Well, they feel they can do that. They're the owner of the company. It's their company. It's their money. They have that ability to come in there and treat us like that. Well, might have the ability, but doesn't have the right. When you have wealth, you might be tempted to perform such injustices against others. You might think that you deserve to have a higher position or better treatment. I remember the first time I actually heard someone utter the words, "Don't you know who I am?" And I thought, do people really say that? I thought that was like on TV. Right, but it was this. I was doing valet parking. This guy came up, and nice brand new Cadillac, I think it was, and it wasn't even anything to do with us. He was talking to someone else, but he mentioned, "Don't they even know who I am?" And I'm like, "Wow, they do say that." Okay, well, yeah, we know who you are. We just don't care, right? Because money does not determine your position. You're not a better person because you have money. You don't deserve special treatment just because, what, you're good at business? Kudos to you. Enjoy your money. Doesn't mean you get to special treatment. I'm going to treat you like I will anyone else. Someone comes walking in begging, I'm going to love on them. Someone comes walking in, money falling out of their pockets. I might follow them around some, but I'm going to love on them just as I would anyone else. But if you lack wealth, it's easy to feel that you need to do what you're told. As much as the person with wealth might try to lord it over others, if you're in the position of lacking wealth, it's easy to, one, fall into that position of letting yourself be a doormat, or two, letting yourself become bitter. Amen? Where you just think, how dare they? My boss is such a jerk, and you just let that heart, that root of bitterness grow and fester in you. We're not called to do that either. Matthew chapter 6, Jesus talks a little bit about this. He says, "Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will also be." A little side note on that last verse, because it's not the point of where I'm going to go. Where your treasure is, there your heart will also be. You want to know your priorities? Take a look at your budget. You have some struggles and things going on, you don't know what's happening. Hey, let's sit down and look at your finances. I bet I can tell you where your struggles are and where your problems lie. Because where your heart is, where your treasure is, that's where your heart's at. What is it you're spending all your money on? That's what you love. Where's your treasure going? That's maybe your idol that you need to work on. Whether you acquire material possession or not, you need to keep in mind, as I said, verse 11 of James. "For no sooner has the sun risen with a searing heat that it withers the grass, its flower falls, its beautiful appearance perishes, and so the rich man will also fade away in all of his pursuits." It doesn't last. None of it lasts. And you can't take it with you. What's the old cliche? You never see a hearse pulling a trailer. Or as I heard another person put it, all of your fancy gadgets, all of your nice clothes, all of those wonderful, expensive things that you enjoy so much, they are the things of future garage sales and landfills. It's not going to last. It's going to perish, and you cannot take it with you. Do not put your focus on money, on wealth, on earthly stuff. Earthly material gain that will not last. It does not hold the answers for us. This life is brief. You realize that? I mean, I know it just seems like it goes on and on. You know, maybe some of you are thinking, oh, we should just, hurry up and get over with. Right? Bible says there's a time where you just get to a place where you're like, oh, come on, Lord, take me home. Right? But this is just a blip on the map of our life. I thought about doing this illustration. I didn't really have time to throw it together, but I've seen it used, and I've used it before, where I was going to take a rope and just have it just like go and just, it's way over there. And then right on the end of the rope, just do like about that much of the rope, little red spot. And that little red spot, that's our life. 70, 80, 90, 100 years that we get, there's our little life there. And the rest of that rope stretching out into eternity. And we let the material stuff we have here take priority over what we're going to have there? May be that the trial you're enduring regarding money is showing you, it's helping you to learn where your real provision lies, where your real security is, where your real value is found as a creation in the image of God, child of the King. Don't put your hope and your trust in money and material gain. Don't put your focus on the stuff of this world. Look, I am not going to be one of those who say that it's wrong to be rich. I've had people tell me that if I really love Jesus, I'll just give away everything I have. Well, no, that's actually not what the Bible teaches. Quite a few godly people in the Bible who have quite a bit of wealth. There's nothing wrong with having money. Just don't let your money have you. Instead, focus on Christ. Turn your attention to things above. Let God be your provider. Let God be your security. Let God be your meter of worth and value.